Honorable Senators, let me take this opportunity to welcome the CS in charge of Energy and Petroleum to the Senate. Now, Honorable CS, you are before the Senate for purposes of responding to question number 105 and 123. Now, Honorable Senators, these two questions will be allocated 40 minutes, meaning 20 minutes per question. And therefore, we will start with question number 105 and terminate at 10:44. And thereafter, we'll proceed to question number 123 to terminate at 11:05. I will therefore call upon the Senator from Makueni County to proceed and ask question number 105.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary provide a list of the rural electrification projects initiated by the national government in Makueni County in the years 2022, 2023, 2024, and 2024-2025 financial years, and provide a status update on each? B, what steps has the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum taken to accelerate the implementation of the rural electrification projects in Makueni County and other counties where electricity access remains below 35%? C, what initiatives in the government implementing to promote the adoption of solar power and other off-grid renewable energy solutions among residents of Makueni County and other arid and semi-arid areas? Finally, Mr. Speaker, D, could the Cabinet Secretary also outline the government's plan to harness solar and wind energy for electrification generation and integration into the national grid, particularly in Makueni County and other arid and semi-arid areas? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond.
Thank you very much, the Honorable Speaker. I wish to respond or to answer the question number 105, and to put it in context, Honorable Speaker, the national government under the guidance and leadership of His Excellency President William Ruto is implementing a robust and elaborate program to extend electricity to every corner of this country, without exception, as I will demonstrate shortly. As a matter of fact, Honorable Speaker, from August 2022 to now, more than 1.2 million additional households countrywide have been connected to electricity. Makueni, of course, being part of that package. Honorable Speaker, during the financial years 2023, 2022-23, 23-24, and 24-25, the government has been able to allocate some Kenya shillings 2.03 billion for Makueni County under the last mile electricity projects, targeting some 18,320 households. A total cost of Kenya shillings 882,581,888 has been committed through REREC for implementation of some 139 projects. The list of these projects, Honorable Speaker, is provided under Annex 1, showing both the approved budgets and their current implementation status. There was a further 4 projects whose survey and design phases were completed and had been earmarked for implementation, but owing to resource constraints, could not be implemented as scheduled and were therefore deferred to the financial year 25-26. Honorable Speaker, Annexes 2, 3, 4, and 5 provide the details of the projects that have been implemented and those that are planned in Makueni County, including their constituencies and design status. Part B, the government of Kenya, as I've said, through the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, continues to implement various programs aimed at accelerating electricity access in counties where connectivity remains low, including Makueni County. To address funding constraints and expand rural electrification coverage, the government is pursuing additional financing from development partners to scale up ongoing initiatives under the last mile connectivity project and other complementary programs. In particular, the African Development Bank financed last mile connectivity project phase 3, which is currently under procurement, targets some 35 counties across the country, focusing on areas with low connection levels. Under this program, Honorable Speaker, Makueni County has been allocated approximately Kenya shillings 185 million, which will facilitate the construction of new low voltage distribution networks and transformer installations to connect hundreds of households. The ministry is also working closely with the Kenya Power and REREC to optimize available resources, rationalize existing infrastructure, and implement grid intensification and extension works to ensure equitable access across all counties. Honorable Speaker, the table that follows, of course, shows the summary of the last mile connectivity projects in Makueni County, with the amounts and the respective number of households. Part C, Honorable Speaker. The government of Kenya, through the Ministry of Energy and Petroleum, in collaboration with development partners such as the World Bank, is implementing several initiatives to promote the adoption of solar and other off-grid renewable energy solutions among residents in arid and semi-arid regions. One of the flagship programs under this effort, Honorable Speaker, is the Kenya Off-Grid Solar Access Project, famously referred to as COSAP, which seeks to expand access to modern energy services in areas that are not viable for grid extension in the short term at a cost of US dollars 150 million. The project targets 14 undeserved counties, as I've said. And these counties are Garissa, Isiolo, Kilifi, Kwale, Lamu, Mandera, Marsabit, Samburu, Tana River, Turkana, Wajir, West Pokot, Narok, and Taita Taveta. The objective of COSAP is to provide renewable energy access to approximately 37,107 households and 343 public facilities, including schools, health centers, and administrative offices, through solar mini-grids, standalone solar systems, and clean cooking solutions. Although, Honorable Speaker, Makueni County is not among the 14 counties targeted under the initial cost-up phase, the government continues to explore the expansion of similar off-grid renewable energy interventions to other counties with low access levels. In parallel, REREC is also implementing standalone solar systems and mini-grid projects across non-grid areas, complementing national electrification efforts. These initiatives collectively contribute to the realization of universal electricity access by the year 2030, as outlined in the Kenya National Electrification Strategy. Part D, Honorable Speaker, the aim of the ministry is to diversify the country's energy mix to ensure that we meet the rising demand for electricity. The current energy mix, Honorable Speaker, is as contained in the table that follows. I note, Honorable Speaker, that there are future possibilities based on the available information to tap into available renewable energy resources, in particular solar and wind, which I note is available in Makueni and various other areas in the country, and the ministry is in the process of exploiting the same. Secondly, Honorable Speaker, the ministry is transitioning to renewable energy auctions that will encourage the private sector to invest more into solar and wind resources and sell their power at competitive prices. These initiatives will ensure that we harness more power from solar and wind and diversify our energy mix. Honorable Speaker, let me hasten to add that finally the National Assembly, which is part of this parliament, has lifted the moratorium that was imposed by the same house some time back. And therefore, as a ministry and our respective implementing agency, that is Kenya Power, we are now more than free to engage in negotiations with the prospective independent power producers. This will go a long way in addressing the shortfall and indeed to attract more investments locally and foreign. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Manzo, do you have any supplementary questions?
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I want to thank the Cabinet Secretary for the effort he has made, and he has clearly indicated that Makueni County doesn't have a budget on part of the solar powering. Recently, Mr. Speaker, the President, while in Qatar, talked about power rationing, and I believe this was with the advice of the Cabinet Secretary. Could he highlight, and when this power rationing happens, when will the people of Makueni be in a blackout so that we can plan ourselves much earlier, Mr. Speaker?
Honorable Sears, just wait for a couple of questions, then you can respond to them at once. The Senator for Nairobi City County, Senator Edwin Sifuna.
Honorable Speaker, as you know, I am a member of the Energy Committee of this House. This morning, we woke up to news that Kenya Power owes 30 billion Kenya shillings out of this same program of rural electrification because the government is pushing power to people who cannot actually sustain that power in terms of paying back the power bills. We see it as a photo obsession for the CS of Energy to go into some hut. You can see the economic situation of that house, Honorable Speaker, when the CS is going to switch on that light. Now, my question is this, and Speaker, in fact, the National Assembly, our sister committee in the National Assembly, is now recommending that in order for Kenya Power to pay back that 30 billion shillings, those of us, again, the working middle class in this country, who can afford to pay, the electricity cost be raised from July of 2026 in order to raise this 30 billion Kenya shillings to repay this debt. So the question to the Cabinet Secretary, and Honorable Speaker, we were in Kilifi County where the Speaker comes from. The other complaint, and I'm sure you have interacted with this issue, Honorable Speaker, is that you find somebody has been connected to power, yes, but the power is so unreliable and so low voltage, it cannot power a portion mill for that hustler down there to be able to actually run the business. So the question to the Cabinet Secretary, as you push this power to these people, what plans have you as a government put in place to ensure that the people you are connecting that power to, after they get the infrastructure, are in an economic situation where they can actually pay their power bills? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Abbas Sheikh.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. First and foremost, I want to thank the Minister for coming and the good work they're doing. However, I know every part of this country, people are crying for power. Honorable Minister, I think I want to talk about my county. Wajir County has been experiencing power blackout and power inefficiency supply for many, many years. Subsequent governments have always been saying that will be connected to the grid, national grid, that there is 5 megawatts of hybrid solar system. But of course, up to now, we experience same problems. That you have, your ministry has leased, our power has leased, Kenya Power has leased some generators from a private company called Income. But those guys are very inefficient. Income is not actually giving sufficient supply to Wajir. Wajir is experiencing actual blackout every day, one day out, day in. And therefore, I want to ask a question is that when are you going to connect, when will the Kenya Power, the ministry connect Wajir to the national grid? Because Wajir is growing. And then there's so many off-grid lines that have been taken from the town, the main town, and then being taken to the rural areas. That's okay, that's in order. But of course, the power is not enough. So, because of that many connections, the main town...
Senator Abbas,
yes, sir.
Just pose your question.
Okay. The problem is we're now experiencing terrible inefficient, the power blackouts. When are we going to have the promised 5 megawatts hybrid system, hybrid power from solars? And what are you going to do, the government doing, the ministry doing to connect Wajir to the national grid? Thank you, Banawaziri.
Now, honorable senators, let us avoid speeches. Let's go direct to the question. Senator Catherine Muma.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to ask a question. Honorable CS, welcome to the Senate, and thank you for your response on Makueni. My question is whether the ministry has a program around the national government partnership with county governments to ensure operationalization of the industrial parks. How much has the ministry supported the provision of energy resources around the county industrial parks, and how equitable is that process?
Senator Mbugua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cabinet Secretary, in page 2 of your response, you talked about the last mile connectivity project phase 2. Could you tell this House how much that financing is, and also name the 32 counties which are supposed to benefit? Thank you.
Senator Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is in Nandi, we normally have regular blackouts that is affecting our business as farmers, especially preservation of milk among other produce and products. What strategy does the ministry have to ensure, as they do last mile electricity to rural homes, have in place to prevent regular blackouts that is affecting the ease of doing business, And in addition, because it's one question, how much has been allocated to Nandi County to ensure in this financial year for rural electrification to many areas in Nandi County? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Consolata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity. Bwana CS, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is based on what mechanisms of sustainability have you put in place to maintain and sustain these gadgets? Because you find that even down at the grassroots where I come from, Bungoma County, most mama mbogas are suffering because of regular power outages. Thank you.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to ask the Cabinet Secretary, what is he doing to ensure that the cost of the projects they are procuring, particularly in Kentraco, are the actual market costs and not inflated costs? And what are you going to do to resolve the matter that has been hanging around between the court and Kenya Power about the meters that is affecting the connections of rural projects? What are you going to do to address the conflict of interest in those who are involved in that matter? Thank you very much.
Now, Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond. You have 5 minutes to do so. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Yes, as I had said earlier on, Honorable Speaker, we continue to support initiatives to generate more power, especially from the renewable energy sources, that is, of course, including solar and wind power. And it must also be pointed out, Honorable Speaker, that investment in power generation is invariably by the private sector. Yeah, and therefore, the private sector, upon its evaluation and based on clear feasibility study, then makes a decision with the support of the government to implement these projects. And therefore, Makueni County is definitely a candidate for such projects in the fullness of time. Honorable Speaker, the 30 or so billion shillings owed to Kenya Power is not on account of non-payment of bills. This is basically money that is owed to Kenya Power by REREC for the purpose of for maintenance of lines. And it's something which we are dealing with internally as a sector, Honorable Speaker, and the ministry. And Honorable Speaker, it is not true that the households that we connect to electricity, that majority of them fail to pay bills. We don't have that evidence, Honorable Speaker. Many a time when we go out there to commission and or launch these projects, it is really as a way of rallying the public and sensitizing them on what the government is doing for them insofar as extending electricity is concerned. And if there's any default in electricity bill payment, can only be as a matter of, it can only be out of individual cases where somebody, of course, can fail to pay bills for one reason or the other, not because of the fact that we are extending these services to those who are unable to. Honorable Speaker, plans for consistent, reliable, and uninterrupted supply of electricity. It is important to point out that we are not just implementing these last mile connectivity projects or programs in isolation. We are looking at this in a holistic manner. As I mentioned, it starts with generation, which thankfully we are now able to progress as a result of the lifting of the moratorium. But after we generate, we are also concurrently dealing with the issue of infrastructure for both transmission and distribution. And we've invested heavily as government and also with support of partners. Yes, through REREC, through Kenya Power, and through Ketraco. And of course, finally, Honorable Speaker, is the last mile. And therefore, you must look at all this in totality. And all these contribute eventually to a supply which is reliable, consistent, uninterrupted, and more importantly, cost-effective. Honorable Speaker, Wajir County, we have been in touch with the leadership of Wajir County and working very closely with them. We know there have been challenges, especially Wajir Town, as a result of a breakdown in one or two generators that supply that town. I have personally, we've been in touch with the Governor Ahmed Abdullahi and my good friend, the Honorable Member for Wajir East, Honorable Daudi. And we have worked very closely, and I'm happy to report that the restoration of power to normalcy in Wajir town and environs is almost complete. But more importantly, Honorable Speaker, we have got in plans a robust and what I would say transformative project that is going to ensure that we have got a hybrid system in Wajir town, okay? A hybrid system, Honorable Speaker, that will supply some 6 megawatts of electricity to Wajir town and environs, which is comprising of a solar PV and a battery storage system, to the tune of almost 2.8 billion shillings. Almost 2.8 billion shillings. This is a project that we are keen as a ministry to implement successfully, and we are hopeful that come sometime November, December next year, this project will be complete and commissioned. And this is going to address in totality and with finality the issue of power in Wajir town and environs, and indeed, many parts of Wajir County. I must thank the leadership of Wajir County for working very closely with us as a ministry. Honorable Speaker, as a ministry and through our relevant agencies, we continue to support county governments on a case-by-case basis. These county industrial parks, you know, there are different stages of implementation or development. And therefore, if and when they get completed, we come in very, very fast and support them through Kenya Power. We intend to continue in that trajectory. Honorable Speaker, the AFDB funding, phase 3, okay, that we are just about to implement in some 35 counties, is going to cost some 12 billion shillings. And this project is going to create a very, very big positive impact in terms of our electrification coverage. Honorable Speaker, blackouts in Nandi County must be looked at in the context of the national outlook. Honorable Speaker, I'm very happy to report, and this is something which is evident, that for some time now, we have almost reduced to 0 cases of national blackouts. I'm sure honorable members and honorable Speaker, and members, you will agree with me that it's long since we had an episode of national blackout. But for the localized blackouts, if and when they occur, we have put in place elaborate systems and mechanisms to ensure that the response time is as short as possible and that electricity is restored the soonest possible once these blackouts occur. But these localized blackouts, Honorable Speaker, can be attributed to very many factors, but chief of which is the vegetative growth, the trees that are sprout and grow along the way leaves. We have worked closely with Kenya Power, and in the past few months, a lot of efforts have been put in terms of cutting down these trees, and this has reduced significantly the number of blackouts. And where the localized blackout is as a result of constraint in the supply, of course, I've said we are implementing a very comprehensive project to ensure that we have got adequate supply in the grid going forward. And this, of course, deals with the issue of Bungoma County and many other places. Honorable Speaker, question by Honorable Senator Mandago of course, it's not specific in terms of the cost of procurement by Traco, but I must report to the House, Honorable Speaker, that as a ministry and working closely with our entities, we want to ensure and strive to ensure that there is cost, this value, in every procurement project, Honorable Speaker. There is no problem so far on the matter of meters procurement by Kenya Power. Any small hitches that were there have been resolved, and Kenya Power is on course to have these meters in stores for use by Kenyans, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. Nandi County, of course, has been allocated.
You've responded to Nandi County.
That's been allocated 1.349 billion shillings, which is under implementation. And this is going to connect some 19,000 households, additional, Honorable Speaker, in Nandi County. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable CS. We will now move to question number 123 by Senator for Tharaka Nithi County, the Honorable Mwenda Gataya. Now, this question will take us to 11:14. Honorable Senator, you may proceed to ask your question.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you. Honorable Speaker, thank you for this opportunity. Honorable Speaker, I would request to know from the Honorable Waziri, what specific measures is the government taking to address the frequent power outages affecting Tharaka University in Tharaka Nithi County and its environs? But to Honorable Speaker, could the Cabinet Secretary also outline the Ministry's long-term plan to improve power supply infrastructure and ensure progressive realization of universal electricity connectivity in the specified area, as well as across Tharaka Nithi County, and indicate the projected timeline for its implementation? Thank you.
Honorable CS, you may now respond.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I proceed to answer question 123. And I'm also, Speaker, from the outset happy to report that I have had a chance to visit Tharaka Nithi County. Specifically in July, I was in Tharaka constituency and did an extensive tour to inspect the ongoing works in so far as electrification.
As the ministry supported the provision of energy resources around the county industrial parks, and how equitable is that process?
Senator Mbugo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Cabinet Secretary, in page 2 of your response, you talked about the last mile connectivity project phase 2. Could you tell this House how much that financing is, and also name the 32 counties which are supposed to benefit? Thank you.
Senator Chiranke.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mine is in Nandi, we normally have regular blackouts that is affecting our business as farmers, especially preservation of milk, among other produce and products. What strategy does the ministry have to ensure, as they do last mile electricity to rural homes, have in place to prevent regular blackouts that is affecting the ease of doing business? And in addition, because it's one question, how much has been allocated to Nandi County to ensure in this financial year for rural electrification to many areas in Nandi County? I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Consolata.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir, for the opportunity. Bwana CS, thank you very much for your presentation. My question is based on what mechanisms of sustainability have you put in place to maintain and sustain these gadgets? Because you find that even down at the grassroots where I come from, Bungoma County, most mama mbogas are suffering because of regular power outages. Thank you.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, I just want to ask the Cabinet Secretary, what is he doing to ensure that the cost of the projects they are procuring, particularly in Kentraco, are the actual market costs and not inflated costs? And what are you going to do to resolve the matter that has been hanging around between the court and Kenya Power about the meters that is affecting the connections of rural projects? What are you going to do to address the conflict of interest in those who are involved in that matter? Thank you very much.
Now, Honorable CS, you may proceed to respond. You have 5 minutes to do so. 5 minutes.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Yes, as I had said earlier on, Honorable Speaker, we continue to support initiatives to generate more power, especially from the renewable energy sources, that is, of course, including solar and wind power. And it must also be pointed out, Honorable Speaker, that investment in power generation is invariably by the private sector. Yeah, and therefore, the private sector, upon its evaluation and based on clear feasibility study, then makes a decision with the support of the government to implement these projects. And therefore, Makueni County is definitely a candidate for such projects in the fullness of time. Honorable Speaker, the 30 or so billion shillings owed to Kenya Power is not on account of non-payment of bills. This is basically money that is owed to Kenya Power by REREC for the purpose of for maintenance of lines. And it's something which we are dealing with internally as a sector, Honorable Speaker, and the ministry. And Honorable Speaker, it is not true that the households that we connect to electricity, that majority of them fail to pay bills. We don't have that evidence, Honorable Speaker. Many a time when we go out there to commission and or launch these projects, it is really as a way of rallying the public and sensitizing them on what the government is doing for them insofar as extending electricity is concerned. And if there's any default in electricity bill payment, can only be as a matter of, it can only be out of individual cases where somebody, of course, can fail to pay bills for one. As to households situated in proximity to existing transformers. The table that follows depicts a summary of the allocations to the county. Honorable Speaker, thank you.
Honorable Mwenda Gataya, any supplementary questions?
Honorable Speaker, I think I'm comfortable with that comprehensive answer given by Honorable Waziri, but I've received a concern from a resident in the Raga constituency. That resident would want to know the current percentage of electricity connectivity, especially in the Raga constituency, and the timelines to achieving 100% connectivity by the year 2030. That's a concern from my residents in the Raga constituency in particular. But I'm comfortable with the comprehensive answer that the Wazir has just given. Thank you.
Senator Manzo.
Yes, sir. On the issue of power outage, could the Cabinet Secretary clarify how long averagely it takes to replace power outage, especially now where Moidibingu meets University Way? All those buildings and commercial enterprises have had a power outage since yesterday, and up to now, nothing has been replaced. So how long do you take to replace power outage, especially or blackout. Like an example of today and yesterday is where Mwindibingu meets University Way. All those businesses have been without power since yesterday. Is there power rationing in the country currently? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Joe Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I will make reference to question number A by the Honorable Senator for the Rakanithi about power outages, Mr. Speaker. And although the Senator asked about power outages around Chuka University, but Mr. Speaker, this is a problem that we are having around the country. And the CS has actually gone to details and explained about connectivity and, assured of quality and reliable power supply. But my question to the Honorable CS is, exactly what is your ministry doing to see to it that we have stable power supply? And I ask this because no less a person than the President has actually admitted that there is power shedding, meaning that we do not produce enough power for our country. Have you ever considered nuclear energy so that we may have constant power supply in the country? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Senator for Nairobi City County, the Honorable Edwin Sifuna.
Mr. Speaker, immediately I heard the President speaking about this load shedding. I knew that the target was that moratorium that had been put on IPPs. It has not taken more than 3 weeks, and I've heard that the CS confirmed here that the moratorium has been lifted. This House, through the Energy Committee, conducted an inquiry into the cost of electricity. A report was produced, and it was actually adopted by this House, Honorable CS, Honorable Speaker. One of the things that we found is that there is a lot of opaqueness in the award of these power purchase agreements to these IPPs. There was a lot of shadiness in the ownership of the IPPs. The report of this House is there. So the question that I want to put to the CS, now that this moratorium has been lifted, what measures have been put in place to ensure that the problems uncovered by this House, including, Honorable Speaker, that opaqueness, the onerous terms, including payments to these IPPs denominated in dollar currency, lack of transparency, and even measures put in place to give priority, Honorable Speaker, to IPPs who've been waiting for these power purchase agreements, like the one solar plant in Nyeri that we saw. Somebody had been waiting 13 years for the power purchase agreement. What measures have been put in place to make sure there will be no corruption this time around, that there will be no onerous terms that have been put on those IPPs for Kenyans to enjoy low power costs? I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator for Meru County, Senator Kathuri Murungi.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, and I want also to take this opportunity to welcome my brother, CS for Energy in this House. Honorable Speaker, I served with him for 10 years in the National Assembly. So when I see him here, I'm very proud that we are really also progressing to other tasks in this country. And I hope also in the near future will also be in another level, maybe, since we are progressing positively, not negative. So, Mr. Speaker, Meru County, Mr. Speaker, the connectivity in Meru is very low, especially in some constituencies. And I saw also the PS in one of the constituencies. Igembe North has 19.2% of households that are connected. Similarly, Tigania East, 19.4%, Tigania West, 24%, Igembe Central, 22.3%. I'm aware that there is a money set aside for Meru connectivity, electricity connectivity at 2.4 billion. But going with these statistics, Honorable CS, I don't think we can do much in that county, because the figures, as I've read, you can see we have a challenge. So what is the ministry doing to make sure that these constituencies with low connectivity at least match up to 50% of the households to be connected by 2027? maybe is there any elaborate plan that the ministry has at least to lift these constituencies with rural connectivity, at least to match those with the 50% and the 70%? Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator for Nandi County, the Honorable Samson Charanke.
Mr. Speaker, on this part outage or power blackout, I've seen the CS has conveniently left out a very important issue. My concern is on the replacement, especially when there is a power blackout or outage in a region, especially in Nandi, we have a number of faulty transformers. So my question is, if there is no load shedding or power rationing, how long does it take to replace most of the faulty transformers? And I know it might not have been the CS then, but can you shed light? Because, Speaker, the reason we have power outage mostly is because when the transformers are faulty or they are damaged. So how long does it take to replace one transformer, Mr. Speaker? And is there ways to establish the needs or the support within that power line of transformer so that we can put this matter to rest? I thank you, Speaker.
Senator Mandago.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. I just wanted to ask the CS, what is the national average connectivity for the country, and how does Tharaka Nithi compare to Murang'a, Nyeri, Meru, Kiambu, so that we can have a fair comparison of the west and the east of the mountain in terms of connectivity, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable CS, you may now proceed to respond. Before you respond, Honorable CS, Senator Boni, you had a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we don't understand why, when this rationing is there, Western Kenya tends to be the biggest casualty. What is the reason? You are well placed to tell us, because fortunately for us, you also come from Western Kenya. And by that I mean Western Province, the former Nyanza Province, and parts of Rift Valley, Uasin Gishu, and Nandi. What is the reason?
Honorable CS, you have 5 minutes to respond to those supplementary questions. You may proceed.
Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. Let me just answer these questions in the order they came, but some will be answered jointly. For instance, the matter of connectivity, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Speaker, as a country, we are committed to attaining universal electricity access by the year 2030, Honorable Speaker. That is a commitment that the government has made and is working progressively towards attaining. Honorable Speaker, as we speak, the national connectivity, average national connectivity is about 76%. The national access rate. And of course, it goes without saying that different parts of the country are at different levels, Honorable Speaker. I may need to go back and come up with comprehensive data covering every part of the country, Honorable Speaker. Suffice it to say, Honorable Speaker, that in Tharaka Nithi County, for instance, Mara and Chuka-Igamba-Ng'ombe constituencies are fairly ahead of Tharaka constituency. Yes, but I can share the specific figures with the House, Honorable Speaker, if you allow me, at an opportune moment. What is critical is that we are working progressively towards attaining universal access by the year 2030, Honorable Speaker. As a matter of fact, Kenya is also a party to the Africa Mission 300, which is a serious endeavor being spearheaded by the World Bank and Africa Development Bank to bring on board some additional 300 million people to access electricity. Okay? Honorable Speaker, the second issue, of course, about Muinimbingu University, it is an isolated case, and of course, the relevant entity is seized of the matter. Yes, it is regrettable that it has taken long. but we are hopeful that by the time we are leaving this place, power will be back. Yes, I've been assured, Honorable Speaker. Again, Honorable Speaker, the issue of stable, reliable power supply, I have spoken to it at length. And I've said that we have a number of initiatives that we have embarked on, including the nuclear energy power that Senator Newton talked about. For the first time, this country is looking at a clear case of establishing a nuclear power plant. And we are more than determined that by the year 2027, 2028, we should be doing some groundbreaking, Honorable Speaker. And that nuclear power plant, Honorable Speaker, is going initially to produce some 5,000 megawatts, which is significant, Honorable Speaker, of course, in different phases. The first one, of course, being in Siaya County, as has been proclaimed by His Excellency the President. Honorable Speaker, the matter of PPAs has been spoken to, again, at length, by various houses, committees of this House and the National Assembly. Honorable Speaker, we are learning from past experiences and therefore making improvements to the process of coming up with the PPAs. Honorable Speaker, if one takes time to read the report of the Committee on Energy of the National Assembly that has ultimately lifted the moratorium, Honorable Speaker, you will see a raft of recommendations in that committee report. Amongst which are one, for the first time now, these PPAs will only come into force upon approval by the Attorney General. Something that was never the case before. That enhances transparency, Honorable Speaker, to a very, very large extent. Again, for the first time, Honorable Speaker, from the recommendation of that committee's report, these PPAs will be pegged on both Kenya shillings and dollars for the first time. Previously, of course, they were basically and exclusively dollar denominated. Honorable Speaker, it's also important to point out that in developing these PPAs, we are guided by the Least Coast Power Development Plan, which is our blueprint. It's our guidebook in terms of determining how much power we need to generate when and where, Honorable Speaker. Meru County, of course, just like the other counties surrounding it, we are making progress in terms of driving accessibility to electricity, Honorable Speaker. And we have allocated some 2.3 billion shillings, Honorable Speaker, which we are currently implementing to connect some 27,500 or so households additionally to electricity. Again, the matter of faulty transformers in Nandi County is not isolated. We are working closely through our Kenya Power entity to ensure that these replacements, when they are due, they are done. But more important, Honorable Speaker, we continue to have very robust engagement with political leaders, especially members of parliament. From time to time, since they are the people's representatives, we get to understand what is the feelings of the people on the ground. Through them, no week passes without us having an engagement with one group or the other of members of parliament and other leaders, including governors and MCAs indeed, Honorable Speaker. The matter of Western Kenya, Honorable Speaker, again, we are alive to it, and we have put in place very, very deliberate measures to address the issue of power and liability in Western Kenya, just as we do for the rest of the country. A number of transmission lines are currently under implementation, and a number of improvements, including upgrading of substations. I can count very many of them, Honorable Speaker, if at that time. But I could share with you and the House more comprehensive information and data concerning these improvements, these projects that we are implementing to ensure that Western Kenya, just like any other part of the country, is serviced adequately and appropriately and consistently by Kenya Power and our other relevant agencies. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable CS. Now, Honorable Senators, we will terminate our interaction with the CS at that. Honorable CS, you may leave at your own pleasure. We will now move to question number 043 by the Senator for Nairobi City County, which is directed to the CS in charge of lands. Clerk, can you usher in the CS in charge of lands, please? Now, Honorable Senators, as the CS is being ushered in the chamber, you will notice that she has 4 questions to respond to. It is now 11:20. Now I'm going to allocate 20 minutes per question, meaning we will interact with the CS for 1 hour and 20 minutes. That is inclusive of the CS responding and also honorable senators asking supplementary questions. Now, Honorable CS, welcome once again to the Senate. Now, you're before the Senate